All right, welcome back in here to the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet here on this Tuesday morning. Remember, everything is podcasted for you. If you missed anything, find it online at jordyculottashhow.com. You can find that also on YouTube and Facebook. All of our podcasts are brought back to you by RMB Builders. Remember, Josh Pate has been weekly on here, and he is fantastic. Keep up with him over at 247 Sports. You can make sure and subscribe to his YouTube stops. That is on Sunday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays at 7 o'clock Central. He is with us weekly. You see Mikey Matuk back here with us at the Jordy Culotta Show. Let's talk some football with Josh Pate. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Jordy, you know how people say when you're growing up, the worst thing for a kid to hear is their father to tell them, I'm not mad at you, I'm just disappointed. Like, we've all heard that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever looked at your own self in the mirror and said, Jordy, I'm not mad at you, myself. I'm just disappointed in myself. Have you ever had that happen to you?
Weekly, I feel like.
Okay. On
Well, it just happened. So this past weekend, I am probably one of the few souls on this planet who are credentialed to both the Red River Shootout and Bama A&M. And as you know, one of those kicked off at noon. One of them kicked off at 8 p.m. So I had a shot. I could have gone to both. But I figure that's going to be a bloodbath. And I don't want to watch a bloodbath and get out of there at like 1 a.m. in Kyle Field. So I'm going to go to Red River, hop on a Southwest flight. I got on one of like 5 Southwest flights that actually took off this weekend. And I'm in the air watching that go down. And the whole time I'm thinking to myself, I'm not even mad at myself. I'm just disappointed because I didn't just let myself down. I feel like I let down everyone else who would kill to have that shot and didn't have it.
Yeah, let me double up on that. Not only do you get dad telling you he's disappointed, but mom too. I'm very disappointed in your choices, Josh, over the weekend. That was that would have been an incredible experience.
Tell that to an 18-year-old Josh Payton. What would he have done?
Yeah, right.
Pathetic. Pathetic. That's what he would have said. Pathetic.
But take me to that atmosphere in Dallas, because I was following you on social. Sark getting off the bus in that suit was just phenomenal. The swag that he had walking on the playing surface with that suit. I thought Texas was going to win just when I saw that image that you tweeted out Saturday morning. But take me to that game. How good was it in person?
Dude, I kind of hesitate to say this kind of stuff in the immediate aftermath. But I still feel today like I did Saturday. I think it's the best regular season game I've ever seen in person. It's right there with just the best game I've ever seen in person. It was wild, man. And I'd never been to the Red River game before. So it was wild. But I'll tell you what stood out to me the most and what I love the most about that place. And I will go back as many times as I can. A lot of times, as you know, when you walk into any modern stadium, they kind of look the same. But what every one of them has now is a luxury suite, or several of them. They have luxury suite levels. There are no luxury suites in the Cotton Bowl. And so what that absolutely makes you 100% confident in is you're going to have the right kind of fans there. There are no sweaters, there are no bow ties. It's the right kind of folks there, and they created that kind of environment. But, man, when Texas goes up the way they do, I'm sitting there asking myself, I remember every cover of every preview magazine, and I remember Oklahoma being prominently featured. Yeah. If they are anything along the lines of what anyone expected of them in the preseason, then this game is not over yet. If they are opposers, then they're about to get run. And obviously we see what happened. But I really don't think, it was one of those deals, Jordy, where if you would have written it, no one would have believed it, that sort of deal, where the fan base, their own fan base, is treating their quarterback room like it's a pro wrestling match. You've got a good guy, you've got a bad guy. And the bad guy is the starter, and the good guy is the one on the bench. And the one on the bench comes off the bench for the second year in a row because the starter gets benched in that game and leads a comeback. And to me, that's the kind of thing that flips the season on its ear. Like, that's the kind of thing that makes you look back another month from now and say, hey, remember when Oklahoma was struggling to beat Tulane? Boy, that's a distant memory. I think they could go on a run right now. That was insane, man. It was one of the best atmospheres I've ever been in, one of the craziest shootouts I've ever seen. So much gunfire on the field. I haven't been around in quite a while. It was so great.
Caleb Williams feels like, I agree with you wholeheartedly, that he makes Oklahoma relevant right now and makes them a contender. How good was he in person?
Oh, it was he was good. I mean, he was great. That's not what stood out to me, though. What stood out to me was watching Oklahoma as a team and watching them. They would come off the field as a team and looking at him over there. And it was almost like watching let me see how I want to phrase this so I don't get canceled. It was like watching a horse that had been caged up, and then it finally has that gate open, and it gets to run free. That's exactly what Caleb Williams looked like. Because once he knew he's got that starting job, then it was like all the restrictor plates come off of him on that sideline, and he was walking around like he was Tom Brady, like he had owned that place for 15 years. And that's not the important part, because a lot of folks run their mouth. The important part was he backed it up on the field, and every single one of those guys on that team responded to him. And I was watching the first time he came on that field and he scored. He broke off that big run. And when he came back over there, sideline looked like it had never looked. Yeah. That team looked like it had never looked. And it was almost like you're looking for Spencer Rattler. He's over there nowhere to be found. And then no one really cared. And it was like a switch flipped. I didn't know if they'd be able to come back. It turns out they did. But that's one of those seminal moments in a program's history. I was at the title game when Saban made the switch from Jalen to Tua. You don't have to wait 5 years to know you're seeing something historic right there. You know it in the moment. And with Oklahoma, as Oklahoma football goes, you knew in that moment you were witnessing something that they'll talk about in the pantheon of Lincoln Riley's career for years from now.
Josh Pate, at Late Kick Josh, is where you follow him on Twitter. What did you learn about Texas in that game?
I learned they got about a half of defensive football in them, and that's not shocking. I mean, they were totally gassed. I know you could go back and watch a film, and you could analyze this angle and, that lack of gap integrity. It was just they were gassed. But what I do love is I wondered how tentative they would be. Sark coming into his first Red River game, a lot of those guys brand new. Xavier Worthy just played out of his mind, and they didn't even know he was going to be on their team on signing day. I mean, we thought he was going to be a Michigan Wolverine. And so Casey Thompson certainly validated himself as their starting quarterback. Xavier Worthy is the receiver they have right now that most closely resembles the kind of player that Sark had at Alabama. Bijan Robinson, I thought, had a really good game. Ended up being overshadowed by Kennedy Brooks. That's not something many people saw coming. But I know you can be mad if you're a Texas fan. I get that. But I also think there's a lot of validity and validation that maybe you did make the right hire, and maybe you do have the right attitude there. You didn't have the horses Oklahoma has. That's really what it came down to. You were hoping with that big lead you popped on them early, you could hold on. But in the future, you play with that same mentality, but you get the right guys in that roster. You're not thinking hold on. You're thinking blow it open. That's what you're thinking.
How much did Jimbo need that for himself Saturday night?
A lot.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, did you notice, by the way, Jimbo, as recently as a couple of weeks ago, even at the company I work for, now I didn't participate, of course, I just was a bystander, but I noticed a lot of that conversation about, hey, why do we think so highly of Jimbo Fisher, the quarterback guru exactly? Can someone remind me? Well, then, you see the articles on Sunday morning, told you about Jimbo Fisher, a classic Jimbo quarterback development. He had Zach Calzada ready. Well, the reality is Jimbo Fisher has not become a different person. I mean, Jimbo Fisher was not a different person over the past few weeks. What they did is they had Haynes King ready to go, and they did not have Zach Calzada ready to go. Obviously, by the time, game 3 or game 4 rolled around for him as a starter against Alabama the other night, he was ready to go. But that's huge for Jimbo Fisher, and it came at the least likely of times, but it's huge for Jimbo Fisher. Now, here's the problem. I always think about this the other way. I know every A&M fan was elated, as they should have been the other night. But the way my sick mind works is I would have been sitting there, and I would have been like Lieutenant Dan, New Year's Eve. Everyone else is celebrating. He's just sitting there with confetti in his hair, and he looks miserable. Because I would have been thinking to myself, wait a minute, we should control our destiny right now. If not for 2 losses. I mean, we could go lose to Arkansas. That's fine. How do we lose to Mississippi State to where this win means we still need help for Alabama to lose another game before we control our destiny over here? And the part that's the most maddening is you realize if we were capable of this tonight against Alabama, there's no way we weren't capable of this 7 days ago against Mike Leach. And yet we know what happened. So that's all well and good. Moving forward, here's the question. The question is, what does this do for them in recruiting, both from the high school ranks and in the transfer portal at the quarterback position? because I don't know if they're where they want to be right now at that position. And there are a few universities out there like this, but I don't know if they're where they want to be at that position. But it could be that that's sort of their lightning in a bottle that they package up and they use to sell. And it ends up that, they get a lot of mileage out of this win above and beyond just some really good marketing and a feel-good story for a week for the university.
You still have Alabama in the Final Four?
Lowercase, yes. Very lowercase, though. And I want to strengthen the font a little bit, but I do want to say yes. Look, here's what I was just recording a podcast. I paused it. That's how much I love you. I paused it to talk to you. And what I was in the middle of saying was, I don't look. It's what stands out to me about Bama right now is a true sophomore is the voice of the team. Will Anderson is the voice of that team right now, and that wasn't the case last year. You had 15 alpha dogs in that locker room. They don't have that right now. That's a problem. It's not the first time we've seen that happen post-championship for Bama. But they dropped a lot of balls the other night. They were picking the end zone the other night. They had a lot of flags the other night. I was talking to a coach yesterday who flat out thought the defensive game plan was piss poor. I mean, they played a lot of 2-4-5 the other night, which Nick Saban never does. And as a result, you had offensive linemen consistently up at the second level on linebackers, and you wonder why 10 and 8 couldn't fit a gap. Well, it's because they had a guard in their face. It's a lot harder to fit a gap when you got a guard in your face. And so I wonder moving forward if this may not be the best thing Nick Saban could have had dealt to his team as it relates to their chances of winning a title. Because now you got the zero margin for error, wounded animal mode for Bama. They are a better team than I think we saw the other night. But at the same time, they got some young kids that are going to have to get on the field. I mean, they got some young guys, especially at receiver, that have the raw talent, and you may have to accept a couple of miscues from them, but they're going to be too good to keep off the field. They don't have enough difference makers there right now, and they're going to have to get it. They are bad at right tackle right now in pass pro, but they're going to have to clean it up, man. But they got – listen, Jordy, no one feels sorry. They got a former NFL head coach as their O-line coach right now. I mean, they got a former NFL head coach as their offensive coordinator right now. No one feels sorry for them. You pay those guys the money to get it done. They got to get it done.
Can Kentucky compete with Georgia on Saturday?
No, they can't. I mean, I'm not going to even try to put that up. No, they cannot.
I'm with you.
Can you paint the picture for me? Like, do you have any way short of -4 turnovers for Georgia where that happens? And do you think Kirby Smart would ever put the ball in the air against Kentucky enough to turn it over 4 times?
Right. How monumental of a time is this right now for LSU football?
It's big. I'm very I said the other night, I'm excited about it. It's a terrible time in the moment, but I think what's going to come from this is potentially going to be an explosive time of growth and positivity for LSU if they can nail the inevitable hire that's coming. Mm-hmm. And I talked to you about this a couple of weeks ago, probably about a month ago now, when the Southern Cal job came open, had an agent reach out to me, and he said, Josh, no one's going to move on that USC job yet. And I said, why? Acting ignorant. And he gave me the answer I thought he'd give me. He said, everyone in our world thinks that LSU job is going to come open.
Wow.
Most folks think it's a better job. But even if they don't think it's a better job, they're going to use it to leverage USC at the very least.
Sure.
So everyone's waiting. Well, it turns out they were right. Everybody and their mother is going to want a shot at that job. And Scott Woodward is going to have both the easiest and the hardest job in the world. He's going to have his pick of the litter. He's got to make the right pick. If they make the right pick, that program is not in disarray. A coach is in disarray. That program is set from top to bottom. They got the right ingredients to win immediately if they get the right guy.
If you were sitting in Scott Woodward's seat, who's your first call going to?
Oh, I've been asked this question, and I really don't know. I know that I've seen the names out there. But what I always believe in doing is not even formulating a list until I define the critical factors and characteristics. Because what I want is I want a perfect culture fit. Now, that doesn't always fit what Woodward's done. Woodward wants proven results, and we'll just make it work wherever. I don't know if he and I jive on that approach, but obviously he's got more experience than I do. Look, I think James Franklin could be good there. But I also think there may be a name that's not on the marquee. Yeah. I'm not speaking about anyone individually. That could be a seamless, perfect fit for LSU. What I like to do is sit down and define the critical factors. What is LSU, and then what is this man, and then find the ones that are the most compatible. Kind of like eHarmony, but for coaching hires.
Speaking of eHarmony for coaching, college football's dating show that you have to watch is Late Kick Josh. I don't know why I got there. I don't know how I got there. I don't know how I got there. I was trying, bro. But subscribe. If you're not subscribed to that, you don't care about college football. That was bad. At Late Kick Josh is where you get him on Twitter. Thank you, as always, for the information. Have a great day. We'll talk soon.
Let me love you, guys. Let me love you.
Later, buddy. There's Josh Pate checking in. That brought to you by Johnson and Spillers. Johnson and Spillers, our dentist here over the Jordy Culotta Show. They got 2 locations, Gonzales and in Baton Rouge. Check them out online at johnsonspillers.com. Instagram, social media, all over the place. Johnson and Spillers, from general dentistry to pediatric dentistry. They even offer some Botox out there. Get in touch with them. Johnson and Spillers, johnsonspillers.com. Good to see Mikey Matuk back here in the studio, as he's been joining us during the 8 o'clock hour here